Okay, so the question is, when will the principal be, another nice round number, $10,000? Well, it's really easy to solve that. You solve the equation, P of t equals $10,000. If we know the solution to this equation, then we know at what time you're going to have $10,000. Well, that's fairly easy to solve. You've already seen most of what you need to see to solve it. It's going to look very much like what you have to do and what you've already done if you've already taken it for the test. Okay? First of all, P of t is P of 0 times 1.12, which is $1,000 times 1.12 to the t. I forgot the t difference. Okay? So, okay? Make sense? I mean, if P of t is 1,000 times 1.12 to the t, and I think we've established that pretty clearly over here, then that has to be the equation we solve for t. You can't solve it for t unless you get it out of the exponent. Well, that looks a lot like if you had 1,000 times 2 to the t equals $10,000, you can solve it. Okay? At least I hope, because something like that's going to be on the test. And again, people seem to be doing pretty well with that. You just translate with the 2 to the a equals c, translate that to log form. Not much to it. Okay? The difference in solving this is you're going to need a calculator. Okay? You don't have a table for the base 1.12 exponential function. Okay? Now we'll write out some rules later, but I want us to show you how it goes because I think you're going to understand it. But what's the first thing you're going to do if you want to solve this? If that was 2 to the t, what's the first thing you do to solve this? Well, I know many of you know because you've done it in the test. You're going to divide by the 1,000 because you got to get it in the form like 2 to the t equals, or 2 to the a equals c. Okay? That's going to be 1.12 to the a equals c. Right? But that's the only difference. And the rule for 1.12 is just like the rule for 2, as you'll see. So you divide by So 1.12 to the t equals 10, right? Now, I'm just going to write it out here, someplace where it's not related to anything. If you had 2 to the t equals 10, how would you solve it? Well, you would translate it to logarithmic form, and you would get log base 2 of 10 equals t. And that should be second nature to you by now. Whether second nature or not, I hope you remember how that works when you take the test if you haven't already. Okay. So, what do you think it's going to be over here? And also, log base 2 of 10 is log of 10 over the log of 2. Okay? Now you should know that by now, but it's pretty easy to remember after you've used it a few times, and if you've been doing the homework you have. Okay? So, you got 1.12 to the t equals 10. How do you think that's going to work out? Just by analogy with what you have there, it's going to say, okay, so log base 1.12 of 10 equals t. Okay? Just like it'd be if it had a 2 here, you're going to use the 1.12 instead of the 2. I'll explain why later, but it's not hard to understand. Okay, so t is log 10 over log 1.12. If you have your calculator in your hand, you can do that in a few seconds. Okay? And I'm going to say that probably comes out approximately 20. A little bit of a question mark. I'd say within plus or minus 1, it'll be 20. Okay? Make sense? So you already know everything you need to solve that equation, at least by analogy, with what you already know how to do. Okay? Now, most of the stuff we're going to do for the second half of the course is based on stuff you already know how to do. If you can at least pass the test with a C, you should be in fairly good shape. If you pass it with a B, you should be in good shape. If you pass it with an A, you ought to be in excellent shape. Okay? If you do the work, you got to set aside, at least 6 hours a week to work on this stuff. Okay? If you're a fast learner, you might get it done in less. Okay? If you read slowly and work slowly, you might need 10 hours. Okay? Make your own judgment, but put the hours aside, and you'll be okay, provided you're well prepared for this point. Okay? Or even adequately. A C on this test is adequate. Not great, especially if it's a low C, but it's adequate. And everything I've seen from everybody taking the test so far is adequate. And something that actually looks pretty good. Okay? So, please do this. I'll also give you some problems. We solve simultaneous equations. I'll give you a prompt. We did it early in the semester. But Tuesday we'll probably go outside and do this really neat experiment with a bottle full of water. It's kind of fun. Okay? And then you get results that help you relate quadratic functions to the real world in a way you wouldn't expect. And everybody seems to be pretty well prepared with the idea of quadratic functions and characteristics. Okay? Okay, very good.